Do you want to build your environment inside the Microsoft Azure cloud, but you're worried about the latency between your physical location and the resources that you have in Azure? Well, Microsoft just announced the preview of Azure Extended Zones. What is it? Find out on this MS CloudBros video. Hey, Jeremy Wallace here, Microsoft certified trainer and Azure Solutions Architect expert. Today we're taking a look at the public preview of Azure Extended Zones that Microsoft just announced. At the time of this video, it's been announced for at least Los Angeles. So what is it? Well, if we look at the definition here, Azure Extended Zones are small footprint extensions of Azure placed in metros, industry centers, or specific jurisdictions to serve low latency and data residency workloads. So it's essentially a very small Azure presence. So it's not a full-blown Azure region with massive data centers. It's a small footprint extension of Azure, but it's very much connected to it. So if we take a look in Miro here, I'm going to dive in here at this little graphic that Microsoft provided. So we have our Azure region, and we have this Azure Extended Zone. So again, this is a small footprint extension of Azure. It's connected by the Microsoft WAN, so it has that backbone network. It's connected with the rest of the Azure ecosystem. It's just a much smaller footprint of an Azure presence that supports specific workloads. What workloads does it support? We can see in this chart here, you have your compute Azure virtual machines. So you got your general purpose ABDE F series and that GPU A10. I got virtual machine scale sets, Azure Kubernetes clusters. So you got AKS, private link, standard public IP, virtual networks, peering, express route, Azure load balancer, DDoS, Azure Managed Disk, premium page blobs, premium block blobs, premium files, Data Lake Storage, Gen 2 hierarchical namespace, Azure Data Lake Storage, Gen 2 flat namespace, change feed blob features, so SFTP, NFS, and then Azure Site Recovery and Azure Backup. So not every series under the sun as far as virtual machines, not every type of feature that you find in all the major Azure regions, but the core items that you want to use to reduce latency. So how does this work? So why the need for Azure Extended Zone? So let's take a look at a US region map of Azure regions. We don't got them named here, but this is the United States. And over here on the west, we have West US. Up here is West 2, and down here is West US 3. We take a look at Google Maps here. That San Francisco area is where West US is. Seattle area up here is where West US 2 is, and West US 3 is just outside of Phoenix. So they just released a preview, the Los Angeles Azure Extended Zone. So if you're in Los Angeles, which is the only applicable example at the time of this recording, and you have a presence in Azure, it's going to be either in West US, in the San Francisco area, or West US 3. And West US 3 is relatively new, so most likely West US. And so now, if you have some certain sensitive workloads that need lower latency, I mean, you got still quite a bit of distance between LA and San Francisco. So there's going to be some latency, much less latency, of course, than from one of the other Azure regions, but still not as low latency as if you had a data center actually in Los Angeles. And so what do we do about that? Well, Microsoft's answer here is these Azure Extended Zones. So by providing this extension, the small footprint extension inside Los Angeles, now you can deploy certain limited workloads, virtual machines, storage, Azure files, into this extension in LA and have that low latency because it's right there in the same location that you are. So that's the reason for it. This is why it's exciting, because there are several applications that are out there, several industries that deal with things that need low latency. Microsoft provides a few examples of what they think are industries that definitely would benefit from this, like healthcare, remote patient care, remote clinical education services, public care services. real-time command and control robotics, machine vision, oil and gas exploration, real-time analytics, inference via artificial intelligence, machine learning, public infrastructure, visual detection, emergency services, critical infrastructure, surveillance and security, media and gaming, media editing, streaming, content delivery, remote rendering for mixed reality and VDI scenarios, retail, digital in-store experiences, connected workers. So all of these are industries that do have some type of system technology application that is going to need low latency access to data or services that are in the cloud. And that would benefit from this extended region or this extended zone that is inside their city, their specific area. So it's going to definitely be exciting as they expand more of these extended zones out to other locations. So how do you get started with using the extended zone? Say you're in Los Angeles and you want to try this out for yourself. Well, first you got to register the resource provider on your Microsoft subscription. So you can do that. There's some PowerShell commandlets here to register that. And then you need to actually register in the Azure Extended Zone. I'll provide the link to the Microsoft Learn documentation in this video's description. But it's as simple as register-az edge zones extended zone, then the name handle Los Angeles. So pretty simple for the registration piece. And then once that's enabled, how do you actually get resources? Well, it's a pretty straightforward, just the normal resource creation process, except now in the region area, you'll be able to deploy to an Azure Extended Zone. And so you can select Los Angeles. So this is when creating a storage, or if when you're creating a Kubernetes cluster, same thing, deploy to an Azure Extended Zone, select LA, creating a virtual network, creating a virtual machine. So pretty straightforward in that process. Again, there's limited resources that you're going to be able to actually deploy to the extended zone. So if it's a virtual machine that's running an application server or a database system, that needs to be very close in proximity, or Azure Files or blob storage, or something that needs to be very close and have that low latency between your location and the actual cloud resource. Those are all things that you can spin up. But if it's something outside of this list that I have on my screen right now, at least at the time of this recording, it's not supported in the extended zone. So it's just for these specific type of workloads there. But excited to see them potentially opening up more extended zones for Azure, especially throughout the US. And if you're interested in more information on Azure Extended Zones, of course, I encourage you to visit the Microsoft Learn documentation on it.